So we wanted to understand what's really happening at the exchange level, because most of you basically promote and then are behind some type of ICOs. And without access to liquidity, what's the point, right? And if you think about the exchange model today, it's sort of kind of opposite of what blockchain is trying to do. It's somewhat centralized, it's very geographically concentrated, and because of its geographic ties, it is under a severe, I would say, regulatory oversight. And that trend will only intensify as we go. So because of the way the liquidity is being provided at these centralized exchanges, I think their challenges and their implications of decisions that they make actually have a direct connections to all the ICOs out there. So without further ado, we have four distinguished panelists here. So maybe starting with Alex, you guys can spend maybe a couple minutes introducing yourself.
My name is Alex from BitThumb, the crypto exchange company from Korea. So it may sound condescending, but we are one of the leading exchanges, crypto exchanges. Yeah, that's what I said.
Hello, my name is BENITES. I'm the CEO of BENITES and also from IncaPay. We're the largest exchange in Latin America. And we keep on growing. We're expanding to different areas of the world, currently expanding to Europe as well.
Okay, so I think some of us actually are not familiar with the scale of their operation, so it might be helpful for Alex and then Roger to put some numbers. So I could be wrong, but in January of 2018, I think BitThumb transacted more than $100 billion worth of crypto transaction value.
Yes, at the peak, we hit about like 6 billion USD trading volume a day. Per day. Yes, but now it dropped to like 1 billion, but recovering to like 2 billion.
Yeah, just 1 billion.
Yeah,
recovering
to 2. Expecting like more numbers, like bigger numbers.
Exactly. So if you look at the trends of these exchanges' growth, most of these exchanges actually experienced a tremendous amount of growth from, let's say, October or September 2017, all the way to maybe March of October of 2017 to maybe February of 2018. And some of the numbers that I've seen are absolutely incredible. So BitThumb is actually quite huge. And Roger?
Well, Latin America, there's a little less users. You know, Latin America is 30 years behind in technology, approximately. Right now, we're in like 40 in the world on market cap. We transact around 28 million a day. And we're adding a bunch more new coins. We have four corporate offices in Peru, Argentina, Brazil, and now opening one in Barcelona. We have over 80 employees and constantly hiring and expanding.
Hey, my name is STEN. I'm chairman of ADARA. Actually, before I jump in, BitThumb, it's really it's impressive recovering to $2 billion.
Thank you.
You're an example, I think, to many upcoming exchanges. So, ADARA is a securities and digital assets exchange with a heavy emphasis on the community-driven content that's being generated in the platform. I'm also co-founder of Connect Capital, and from being an advisor to a lot of ICOs, we felt that there's a need for securities and utility token exchanges. So we collaborated on creating exactly what we need in the space.
Good morning, my name is VITALY ANDRUSEVICH. I am a CEO and a co-founder of CoinsBank. So the Centralized exchange is one of our service providers. So that's it.
Okay, all right. Okay, so let's talk about regulations. Because without it, you can't really talk about exchanges today. I would say almost all exchanges are under some kind of surveillance by the local governments, rightfully so. Because when you deposit your crypto into some centralized online services, you want to make sure that things just don't get stolen. So I think security becomes a big issue. But starting with BitDom, how are you? Are you okay? Is Korean government treating you nicely?
Actually, we are under huge pressure imposed by the government. But the thing is, we realize that it is very important to be compliant to the government, like for the society. Because like when the crypto introduced to the society, like last year, the government was lost because it was absolutely like blank, like when it was booming. So we recognized the importance of educating like government. So that from that moment, we were trying really hard to educate them, to provide materials and informations so that they can learn, so that they can come up with proper appropriate regulations. So I think now the study's been almost to the end, and hopefully after June this year, after the general election, they will come up with us some kind of good regulations, proper ones. That's my personal opinion, but yes.
Now, I know that you and I had some conversations, and it could be someone else from BitDom, but wasn't BitDom, back in January, their total transaction value exceeded that of Kosdaq, which is the Korea's largest stock exchange, but the BitDom was bigger than that. So,
right, exactly. That was the moment when the government was alerted.
Exactly.
Yeah,
they
it was
saying,
the big
down.
threat to the stock exchanges.
Right.
So then, ever since then, they were monitoring us intensively, and we had to come up with separate regulatory policies and all that. But now, like I said, we realize the importance of education. Yes, and cooperation between them and us, government and us. So yes, but the thing is, those small potatoes, but small exchanges, one of them were charged and imprisoned for what do they call that? I forgot the words.
Maybe mishandling customer deposits.
Exactly, mishandling the customs deposit, and I think that is wrong. And there's no way that bigger exchanges can follow the same track. And we are actually trying to make sure that no big players doing the same thing. So yeah.
Okay, Roger.
From the regulatory point of view, well, actually we talk to we're in 9 countries in America, we talk to every government. I'm personally a speaker to central banks and a lot of fintech conferences. We're really close to them. We actually base our KYC and AML policy based on their request. There's no regulation that falls into us, where we fall in. So we actually got a note, for example, from Peru, from the bank saying, okay, we don't have to be regulated, but please collaborate with us if there's something that goes on. I think most of the also in South America, there's a movement right now for a fintech law that kind of targets one of our markets. But I think most of the pain is not all the time from regulatory regulation, but from banks. I think that's the biggest issue. How we target that in our exchange is basically right now Benica doesn't have any bank accounts. We separated everything with our payment platform IncaPay, so all our money goes into a payment platform where we have really strict. We're getting a payment license in in the EU and so on and so on.
So are you saying that, let's say, if I open up an account in Birinka, I cannot connect my regular bank account to it? So
Yeah, you can, but through Incapay. So the only way to top it up is through Incapay. So that way we kind of protect ourselves from a lot of things there.
Right. So by virtue of what you're saying, there is no direct connection there because it has to convert it into some kind of Incapay.
Incapay is kind of like it's a payment platform, but the payment platform falls into different regulation because it's actually not handling. It handles customer funds, but there is a regulation for payment processors and payment entities.
Okay.
So it's much simpler to talk to banks and say, okay, what do you do? Like one of our companies, Incapay, I go, I said, what does the company do? We're a payment processor. And that flies much better than saying, okay, you know what, I handle cryptocurrency and I'm exchange. I don't know about you, or maybe how many bank accounts have you had closed? Probably, I know exchanges. We have 38 bank accounts across the world for different currencies, and I know a lot of exchanges. Well, I think everyone that's here is cryptocurrency. You heard when BitFinex got their bank account closed and you couldn't move the funds nowhere. No? So I think that's the biggest threat to exchanges.
Yeah, I agree. I actually agree on both being a starting exchange. The problem is there's no real regulatory guidelines. No one really knows what they want. In Korea, it's different than from Japan, from Singapore, from the US. Switzerland is moving ahead heavily, but still, there's different guidelines for everything. I think what you can learn from the current regulatory environment is look at what's existing. The regulations around securities, like traditional securities, are a great example of how should we structure the company structure, the legal structure, the licenses. The bank accounts are extremely difficult. It's a challenge.
Now, when you talk about bank account, Roger and Stan, you're talking about bank account that your exchange uses, but not necessarily customers. The trading account and their bank account.
Right. In this case, Incapay is a bank account we use as a company, and where customers deposit the funds.
Okay.
Yeah, agreed. So, in terms of structuring, if anyone is looking forward to like jumping into either the exchange or a sub-part of the ecosystem that handles with exchanges or licenses, lack of guidelines, I would advise look at what's existing, look at the traditional markets. There's a great structure for having a local broker that provides full KYC compliance, and then you have the global aspect with the crypto layer on top of it, where the exchange has a local, broker that provides KYC, AML, and then you are compliant both for the continuously changing rules in the country of the user locally, and then the exchange. And it's a unique synergy that you need to continuously balance. I think that's what BitFamp also will face, the continuous synergy between your local Korean regulations and then whoever, for example, is coming from the US or Latin America or Europe.
VITALY?
We at Coinsbank are also under a great regulatory burden. Like I already said, we are constantly seeking for new countries or governments where at least not hostile environment is provided regarding cryptocurrencies or blockchain. The moment we are working in Estonia, so in my opinion it's one of the greatest countries in Europe with good infrastructure and friendly environment, and I hope that it will remain so in the future. As already mentioned, there are no global financial regulatory at the moment, and in addition, I would like to also mention that there is some security regulation also, which is called GDPR. So it's a bit difficult to work with. It adds a lot of problems to us recently. So the main problem is that we have to organize all our internal data to comply with the new with this regulatory.
So Vitaly, the one thing that I felt the Coinsbank was so unique compared to other exchanges were that because you are sponsor of the event, I was able to, like sometimes we had to deposit money.
Yes.
And what I realized was you guys are actually bank and exchange at the same time.
We are not a bank actually, so we have a bank in our name, but we are not a real bank. I think we are an exchange. We have several banking licenses, we have several financial licenses at the moment. So it's a PY and EMI license, and we are working towards having the new real banking license also.
It would be amazing if you could do that.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, like being able to run an exchange business with a fully licensed banking kind of a license with it, so that you can provide both bank account as well as a crypto trading account. I think
in the nearest future we will open for our customers SCPI accounts. So they will be provided as an addition to our normal crypto wallets.
Yeah.
So the customers will be able to use them as normal bank accounts in their banks. That's it.
Now, but you don't actually list ICOs then?
No.
Yeah.
We are trying to stay
away from ICOs, huh? And why is that?
Excuse me?
And why is that?
Why is that? ICOs actually are not legal in many countries, so we are trying to be legal as much as possible, because it's already difficult to work in this world for such a company like us, and I think we don't need more problems.
Okay, fair enough. The STEN. So I never really understood how to run a exchange that allows security tokens to be tradable. Do you need any extra layers of licenses and regulatory kind of compliance because of it, or how do you do that?
I think that's a twofold question. One is, of course, you need a handful of licenses. I think a better way of answering this is taking a step back and looking at what it really implies of trading securities. Because the big problem is securities for different countries, they need to stay inside a security-safe environment. So if a security leaves the exchange to any other ledger, it needs to stay in, say, an environment where you know that it's fully KYC, AML compliant. So I think that the big challenge is not in terms of like getting the licenses and being fully compliant for your local country, say, but the big challenge is exchanges working together on maintaining the network of a token floating around in an ecosystem where it stays accredited investor or equal to whatever the security token needs. I think that's a bigger challenge. So I see in the future more a network of exchanges collaborating on providing KYC, AML, and compliance of anyone who's trading on the security part of the exchange.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So for example, let's say if I have a regular stock and it is listed in New York Stock Exchange,
correct.
That stock actually is not tradable in, let's say, Tokyo Stock Exchange. It's
yeah,
not.
correct.
Maybe you could do that through ADR concept, but that's more of a, that's not really exchanges kind of linking their APIs together and then follow every stock that goes through.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's I see that it's more than just a regulatory challenge. It's more exchanges collaborating, creating a common platform. Technically speaking.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, that's a challenge because I mean it's sitting on the ledger, it's sitting on the blockchain, it's freely tradable. So it would have to stay inside the network and it requires collaboration of exchanges to say, okay, hey, this person is sending these security tokens from our exchange to yours. Can he do that? Is he a accredited investor locally? Is that verified? And then you need to check on a regulatory perspective, like how are you checking the KYC of your clients? How are we doing that? Does it count for us? Is that valid for our regulators? So I think it's a big challenge.
Okay. I want to talk about ICOs. So maybe start with BitDom, Alex. How the hell do you evaluate one ICO to be better than the other, or one token to be better than the other? I know that maybe a few weeks ago you only listed maybe 16, 17 tokens. Now you're adding a lot more tokens each week. I can see that because I'm a member. But how do you actually decide?
Well,
what's the process?
That's a very sensitive question.
Yeah, I know it is.
You know, Google featuring like when the app or the game gets approved by the Google, then they post it on the main page. So
yeah, App Store.
That's the App Store
yes.
Feature. It's like they don't have any like specific criteria for it.
That's right, they don't.
They do certain, but that doesn't necessarily if those apps follow exact specification that Google provides, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they will secure the featured service. So it's pretty much the same notion here. We value the reliability of the tokens, so that any tokens that might ruin the reputation of BitDom, then it's no way that they're gonna be listed. But it has to be like firm, based on like proper business and with like good white papers and all that. But at the same, like again, we don't have like firm, like engraved
specifications. Have you delisted any tokens that you previously listed?
Oh, not just yet, but that's quite possible. But still, we haven't listed any like bad coins yet. So
yeah, that's what I see.
Not gonna be happening in the future too. So there's less chance that we might delist, because they are all the good ones up until now.
Yeah, because I think when I analyzed your tokens being listed, the one with the smallest market cap had like 300 million market cap.
That's us.
Yeah. So you tend to go for high quality tokens.
Exactly. Not like the other players listing a bunch of small coins. Like some exchanges in Korea, they list over like 100 something, and that brings up like all those speculations in the society too. So we don't want that to happen. But I don't know if it's not about the numbers of the coins that we are to list, but it's just the quality. So if there are like good quality tokens, then we're gonna list like all of them. Like we will like try to list all those like good coins. But as long as the coin's good, why not?
I remember just one anecdote. I was helping Brock to get EOS listed on BitDom, and after EOS was listed on BitDom, at one point, BitDom contributed more than 80% of EOS's entire global trading value. So it was enormous kind of factor that kind of BitDom played when it comes to EOS, for example. Okay, Raj.
Well, before we actually adopt this any ICOs, also for some of the same reasons Queensland said, in some jurisdictions we're in, they're not illegal, but you have to have a special license because it's basically a security token. So with this change that where we separate both our platforms and just have one payment platform and BENITES just being a customer, we're going to start listing ICOs. We're actually developing a special platform just for ICOs. How we're going to evaluate them, we're putting a new business development team that's going to go all the due diligence, do all the white paper, and do the correct research. And that's really important to us because, as I told you, I'm a usual speaker at FinTech conferences, mostly because of IncaPay, which is our cross-border payments and remittance tool. And I saw I'm never going to forget this. I saw, and some friends told me, an ICO that had some name, I'm not going to mention the name, that was literally a copy of what we did at Input. Literally. Like, they heard us speak, they copied everything, they grabbed some advisors. You know, for an ICO, a fake ICO, you put 500K in publicity, and you raise the money, and then boom, you're out. And that's an anecdote that actually is going to make us work a lot on due diligence to the tokens.
Wow.
Yeah, I think us being both a utility and a security token exchange, we have I mean, we're not launched yet, but we've spent a fair amount of time on looking like how can we evaluate. I used to be on the other side of the story, so me as an advisor, I've tried to get a lot of tokens listed on numerous exchanges. So I have both perspectives. It's not easy because what is a valid ICO and what is a scam or what is something in between? You could go for only listing larger coins to take that as a security layer. But a lot of the smaller, I think that's a big problem to really like drive adoption. We need some of the smaller projects to have a space to get listed without extremely high fees or without a huge barrier of getting listed in the first place. So you need to look at these smaller, newer ICOs, newer utility tokens. But we have security tokens also, so that's a different thing. And they have to go through extensive tests because if, for example, you have a security token that has revenue or profit built into the token model, then you have to go through the check of, is the company valid, what's the company structure, how is that revenue like managed, generated. You need to go through a much more thorough due diligence on the security token. So we, again, took this from the traditional model to work with trusted anchors that do a lot of the verification process outdoors. I know that GBX is doing the same. They work with firms that would do the check for them, and then they know it's coming from this firm. We can trust this. The application at least is valid, and then you can still in-house decide whether you do or don't list them. But again, I think in the future that will be a big issue because utility tokens will keep popping up more and more. Security tokens will come in, would only make it more difficult to see whether something is real or fake.
Okay. Vitaly?
As I said, we are not working with ICOs.
Any plans?
Until, yes, until it's well regulated. But I think that regarding the regulatory, I have to add that there are not always a problem with them. So sometimes it provides a new opportunity as well. And the good example of this is European initiative, so it's called Payment Service Directives 2. So it's kind of directive which introduce new types of payment market players, and I think that our exchange can use this opportunity to become to build our services in the chain between end banks and customers. So we can be some kind of an aggregator in this field and provide customers the possibility to finance their payments using cryptocurrency from their wallet on our system. So it's kind of new financing scheme.
Okay, the last question.
Yeah.
So we got a lot ahead of us. We're, in my opinion, barely beginning in terms of crypto revolution. And these centralized exchanges have enormous influence. And you got a lot of power in your hands. And so what I would like to ask each panelist is, what is your, let's say, very like single kind of point summary. What is your strategy? What is the most important strategic move that you'll be making in the next, say, 6 to 12 months? What is your intent in terms of taking the current position to the next level?
I'm afraid I had to repeat the same thing again. We are trying to be very fully compliant to the current government, and I think it is our responsibility to do so. So that's a short plan for us for now. Yes.
Obviously, we're really compliant as well. We're investing a lot in due diligence also, and in customer interaction with the user interface. Mostly in South America, we have people that are buying. We have a lot of first-time buyers, so we're trying to give them an experience where we get so many requests on what's Bitcoin, what's this and what's that. Here's another crazy anecdote. We had a lot of people withdrawing Bitcoin to their home address. So I think just the more we try to help them with education and educate them, I think that's one of our points right now to make it stronger. I think it's stronger for the community as well. I'm just going to put a little thing out there. I think there's a huge ghost also right now in the exchange community. We charge exchanges that don't have any kind of bank account, and they work with, I'm not going to say the name of what token. I think we all know the token, and a lot of us think that's not true, and I think that's going to be on the long term. If we don't get some kind of validation from that, that will be hurtful for everyone. If you see the market cap of that token, and imagine if all that disappears, it will also have half of the exchanges in the world disappear, or more than half. So I think there's something that needs to be done by whoever runs it. Come clear if the funds are there, just show everyone, which will make really good in the community and avoid all of the pressure a lot of us get because of that. I think that's really important. I don't know. I asked you before the conversation, what do you think about that same token? And I think we kind of agree on this.